So new economic and demographic trends bubbling beneath the surface in South Carolina, changing the presidential race in the South primary. Doug McKelway is live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So, Doug, South Carolina is not really the same state that it was when we had that huge fight over the Confederate flag back in the 2000 primary, or even when Newt Gingrich beat Mitt Romney there back in 2012.
That's right, Martha. That old stereotype of dear old Dixie in the old South is long gone. South Carolina has been evolving for a long time, but it's been doing so by stages, by regions, by zones, and that makes the state very, very difficult for candidates to try to figure out, very difficult for candidates to message to.
South Carolina has always been a state that's been described as sort of three different political zones. You know, a very conservative upstate, especially religiously conservative, a much more moderate Midlands area, and then a much more liberal low country around the southern part of the state.
Yet each of those three zones has been overlaid with complexities. Take the southern zone, the coastal zone where we are right now, talking about Myrtle Beach down to Charleston, down to Beaufort beyond that, Hilton Head beyond that. The gentle old South still exists there, but it's been supplanted in large part by a migration. Mark Sanford is a congressman who represents this coastal area and a former governor who has run for statewide office 6 times, has seen that transformation firsthand. Here he is.
If you look at the number of retirees, for instance, that have come here from the upper Midwest to the Northeast, phenomenal retirement belt, not only along the coast of South Carolina, but in the upstate, along the mountains as well.
That influx of so-called Yankees to this area may have changed how Donald Trump is perceived in this region. It may have been at one time that Southern sensibilities would have rejected that kind of bombast. Not so much anymore, Martha.
Fascinating to see all of it state to state. And South Carolina sort of has a reputation for some quirky election results, sometimes electing some eccentrics, some people who are sort of out of the mainstream. How does that factor in?
You know, we talked to Pat Goodell, the Fox News contributor and Democratic pollster, who is from this area. His family dates back in South Carolina to the Civil War days. He cites that old story about South Carolina, that it is too small to be a nation, too large to be an insane asylum. But take the northern third, just to talk about the quirkiness of it all. It went for LBJ over Goldwater in 1964. It went for George Wallace in 1968, and then went for Jimmy Carter in 1976. So throw into that mix the changing demographics of the state. Here's Pat.
All of these things mean we have new voters who have not been participating. We see them in state elections. We will probably have, I would say, probably a fifth of the voters in this primary will be people who've never voted in South Carolina.
So what to look for? Watch the 1st Congressional District. That's what Mark Sanford says. Watch the lowlands. He said, as go the lowlands, oftentimes goes South Carolina, and could dictate the outcome of what happens here on Saturday night.
We'll see. Fascinating. Thank you very much, Doug.